Hey everyone, as you might know, set 6 got released last Friday, and normally what I do is when a set gets released in Japan, I make a preliminary deck, just so people can just jump in and try something out. But when the English set comes out, I usually release one where everything is much more updated and concise based off what we've saw for the last X month, so that we have a better base going into the English side of the game to start off with. So what I'm gonna do, usually I do these before the set is released, but hey, got busy, right? Got busy. I compiled some of the decks from all the previous tournaments, and the ones that I give it like a stamp of approval. So you can start from here, but if you want to look at all the other lists, we do a lot of deck lists on this channel. I kind of realized that, like, Monday usually is tournament deck lists, and then Thursday is like everyone's deck lists from locals and all that, and even some of the bigger events. So there are a lot of deck lists for you to peruse, but here would just be a good starting point where we just compile, like, maybe I pick one of each of the new stuff that comes out, and you'll see it in below. It's gonna be the same as the same decks that I picked from the preliminary deck list, but these will of course be much more upgraded, and I will kind of discuss them. And do bear in mind, we are getting some of the PRs getting released in English, but they haven't been uploaded on decklog yet, so some of these will still be in the Japanese decklog, but I'll point them out, right? So once again, yeah, let's just get started, right? So first off, we always start off with Nirvana. This time we have Nirvana Jiva. This is the new Nirvana that has come out. Unfortunately, Nirvana, she's not that great in set 6, and that's kind of just because, hey, it's only like one set, right? You have one set of support. Of course, it's not going to be that good. This one is from, this list is, I think it's Utoshi's list, from one of the how do you call it, the wheel dress tournaments where you play like the new stuff, and this was one that won the Akiba tournament. So yeah, Akiba, bigger, probably much more competitive, but generally speaking, a lot of these Jiva lists look pretty similar to this, right? You don't have much choice. That's just how it is. You max out on the Trick Stars, Prayer Dragons. You pick 4 of the guy that draws 2, and then you pick 3 of the guy that is free, right? And then you've got your bills. Your bills that is good, right? It doesn't just straight up die to removal. And then otherwise, you have the other crossover dress things that is just like puts on a lot of pressure. And that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, there's not much to go on here. Jiva kind of is the it took a while for like old Nirvana to get good. I think it's probably gonna take at least 3 sets for Jiva to get good, and then maybe it'll become like the top deck in the format, right? So there's that's pretty much it. So the next list we have here is the Gamers Dogma Youthberg list. Now, this list is very different from the more traditional Youthberg lists that you'll see, in that it runs a heavy amount of grade 3s, and it also runs the TD, the trial deck Youthberg as well, right? So what does this mean? Why are we running such a weird list? Well, the real reason is, right, if you're playing Youthberg in set 6, the only reason I think you're playing it is because he looks cool, right? Otherwise, you're better off playing other Keter decks. There's just better Keter decks right now, right? However, if you wanna dominate your opponent and do better than just the average, you gotta go higher. You gotta go more high roll, and this is why I picked it, right? If you go to don't go to an 8-round tournament, an 8-round Swiss tournament with this list. I think you will do poorly, but if you go to a locals and just get a bit of luck, or just like a low round tournament, I think you might do okay, right? You might do okay. And the biggest plus of this list is that it doesn't run Schneisel. Schneisel is actually quite expensive right now, especially if you're a Chad and wants to full high rarity the list. Right now, I think I've seen some really weird prices for it. So you look at this list, hardly any grade 2s, and that is technically a bonus for you. Again, like if you could only buy one Youthberg TD for some reason, right, and it only comes with 2 Katawala, well, guess what? You don't need them. You just replace them with grade 3s. But apart from that, let's kind of talk seriously about why this deck is kind of better than just the traditional one right now. Because once Tempest comes in, dang, things are getting different, right? So first off, we have the TD Protofol arms. This guy's okay, right? This enables you to have extra Persona Ride. It's also a bit bigger than the other Youthberg on the rearguard circle. So it's like an 18k pretty much, right? Then you have like 6 of the Rebel forms. So, 4 of the Gust, because just Gust is better, and Zest Zest is cool, right? Zest is cool. But then you run 4 of this Decisive Axe Dragon. Now I see this is a good card, but it's a bit hard to fit him in because he's another grade 3, and you're just gonna buff your grade 3 counts like even more, right? Which feels bad, but why think so much, right? Play aggressively. Oppress your opponent. This helps you do that because they can't guard properly, right? So that's cool. And then to oppress your opponent even harder, you have Bethida as well. This one is just your this just bottom decks your opponent's entire column, right? So you bash them, and then you bottom deck their stuff, and then they have nothing to hit you back, which is fine because you don't have that much defensive power anyway. You only have triggers. So that's basically the idea behind it. The other thing that is kind of interesting is that because you run more grade 3s than your standard Keter line, right? Only Bastion runs more grade 3s than you. Your over trigger is better, right? A Marchino, a new like World Order over trigger. This guy looks really cool. It works better for your deck because you have more grade 3s in the front, so they trigger more. That's kind of cool. That's kind of it, right? So apart from that, otherwise, like this is a much more high roll deck, of course. But I think if you want to play Youthberg right now, you should be playing a more high roll deck, or otherwise you should just play another Keter deck, unless you just want to play this because it's cool. But you know, playing this deck is also pretty cool too, right? Moving on, we have Bruce. So Bruce, there are still 2 ways to play Bruce. The grade 4 Bruce has still been pretty popular as well. I think Japan has been playing a bit of a hybrid kind of grade 4 Bruce, similar to what the West has done. But this is Gen's grade 3 Bruce. And there's like, I think there's 2 type of Brucers out there, right? There is the diehard grade 4 Bruce people and the diehard grade 3 Bruce people, right? And generally when grade 4 Bruce came out, there's a lot of people who are like, screw grade 4 Bruce, I'm still a grade 3 Brucer, right? And this is basically it, right? This is basically it. This is Gen's grade 3 Bruce. He did well in the Chiho regionals. And it's pretty much the old deck, except you run 4 Julians, because Julian is cool. Julian gets you stuff before you're in Final Rush. It also helps you Soul Charge, and that's great, right? Otherwise, the rest of the deck is very, very similar to, well, just pretty much just set in stone in a way, right? You know, Marjorie's still good, your Protobulbs, your Dobers, 3 Lenards. I've seen several people, if they're running the grade 3 lineup, it is very similar to this. They maybe change 1 Dober for like a 4th Lenard, and that's pretty much it. And then you have like some defensive orders, like this was it before, you know, 20k. You can change to another Hellblast, things like that. You're a bit more free in your CB usage because your Bruce isn't using a CB as well. So overall, you can be a bit more loose with CB, but this is basically grade 3 Bruce right now. Next we have is Orfist. So Orfist has seen some life when set 6 came out because it got our new Nuvera grade 3, which is it just makes everything work. We're also getting the PR in English too, so several of these PRs, big PRs, are coming out in English, so we can actually start playing some full power decks, right? And this is one of them. Unfortunately, this is in Japanese because the PR hasn't been put in deck log yet, but when it does, that's great. But this is coming out. This is coming out in the, I think it's the Shop League PRs. So that's great. That's great. I think a lot of people have been waiting for this. The main thing with this deck right now is you run Ragus and Nuvera, and that is, you're pretty much set, right? There's some changes that you can run as like, you know, three PGs in one of the Sanctitude. It doesn't really matter. Those are very small changes. I like this one because it runs 4 Kuljamid, very aggressive, but can kind of convert into things later. And yeah, so you just put down Kuljamid early, use it, intercept with it, and then pop out Shadow Army tokens later, just kind of finish off your opponent, which is nice, right? It's pretty nice. And overall, like, I've seen people change some of this grade 2, like a grade 2 ride line with a Combine Rusher just for an extra attack, but I don't think it's like super required. It's a nice tech, but I don't think it's like 100% required because in the end, you're going to be calling out more Shadow tokens, and the value of the Combine Rusher kind of becomes less and less, right? So yeah, this is Orfist right now. And the next one we have is Bavsagra. So one of the biggest problems with Bavsagra right now is that it has a PR in Japanese that we cannot run because we just don't have it, and it's not coming out. And it kind of, you know, dumps like the Trick Moon, which makes everything cool. But this is fine. This is one of the Bavs from locals that I saw. VG top decks, right? And I think the majority of Bavsagra decks are pretty similar to this. your order lineup, your arms lineup is pretty much set in stone. You run 4 spears and then a sword and a shield, right? And then your ride line is set in stone, can't change. Ayashina is just way too good. This is like an insane card. And you got Nulls, Travis, and Trick Moon, all insanely good cards. The new card that we get is Shabda. This guy just comes out when you call a card out from your drop zone. So basically, when you arm a Bavsagra, you can CB1 and call this guy out, which means you use your hand less, right? Like by playing in arms, bam, 2 cards come out. You don't have to worry about stuff like playing cards from hand. So that's pretty cool. And then you just have like the grade 1, right? The grade 1 is also very nice. Hits numbers, has intercept. Hey, does well. Yeah, overall, this is a very simple Bav deck. I know some people like changing the draw to a front, and again, that's up to you too. Basically, the trigger lineup you can change a bit just to suit what you like, but I think generally 8 crit is all like the way to go, right? And then next we have is a Lenard deck. Now, Lenard hasn't really done that great, in my opinion. This is Matsun's list from WGB Yokohama. I think this snuck in on one of the diversity cuts. A lot of the Lenard lists in set 6 are pretty much similar to this. This one is running the rural ride line. That is probably the only change that you might see. A lot of people are running Creed Assault because it's just a 20k beater and you don't have anything better, which is really sad, right? It's really sad, but that's how it goes. And then you got some Urgulas as well. To be able to just stop your Mahanirvanas from like pinging you 1, which is like a nice plus. When you run Stoicheia, you can run this card to kind of negate those kind of things from happening. But then apart from that, you know, 3 Elenias, kind of push earlier if you can, because unfortunately, like, I feel like this deck's push power is very, very low because you don't have a 4th attacker yet that's coming out in set 7. So you have to rush early and play kind of Zorga-like with a 3 attacker, but you just have a greater emphasis on Vanguard. How do you say, Vanguard power or Vanguard scariness, and then you're running like both the TD Lenard and the booster Lenard just for more persona ride and to generate more soul, because you actually do have a soul issue with this deck, which is why you're also running one of the red flower girl. I can't say the name. It's like Cariophilus. So overall, that's just how this deck runs, and yeah, the only list to do well this entire season. Right, and then we had some hero lists. Dianos list. This is KM's Dianos list. This is the most standard deck you could ever build. You dump a bunch of heroes in the deck and hope for the best. But then you have like Combine Rushers, which is just overall a good generic card. So whenever you play your hero base, this guy comes out. The hero base hasn't been errated yet, but they said it will. Right now, the hero base can search another hero base, which is really good. Right, that's really good. It makes the deck actually better and more consistent. So if you want to play heroes right now, this is the time before they actually errata it, or they figure out how to errata it, and it becomes less good. Right, less good. This did top WGP Yokohama as well, but I think it snuck in because again of diversity cut. It's just a nice diversity deck. So I think it came in like 8th in Swiss. So yeah, pretty cool. Then we have Hexaorb. So Hexaorb was big. People hyped it up at the beginning of the season, and then it kind of died out. The reason why I think a lot of people hyped up is because, again, it's getting a PR, and that's why this deck list is in Japanese. It is getting this. I think it's four-sided sorceress. But what she does is she countercharges and draws, right? Which is insane, right? If this is basically what the deck was missing. Like advantage. So when this card came out, yeah, it's coming out in English too. So I think people can innovate on this list a bit more. Out of all the lists so far, I think this one still needs some work. This is from one of the locals when it became good, when it got hyped, right? And then it's still running some of these old cards. So as you know, Nanaful for the just kind of extra soul, and then you have the I think the other grade 1, just to countercharge. So yeah, this one for extra countercharge. But yeah, otherwise you have like better soul options now, which is nice. Better advantage engines, and then just you can still multi-attack from the stuff from before. So that's pretty cool. And then lastly, we have a Greedon. So this is Hongwai's Greedon. Greedon did get some buffs. Again, also got a PR that's coming out, which is Hiko, and the Hiko is really good. What this deck now has is the ability. So you see this eagle dude? it has the ability to not deck out, which was the biggest problem with the list. But because when you run Hiko, if you combo Hiko and like Ubetsu, you should be able to generate enough extra cards to get like a third Greedon restand. Like, so Greedon can attack 3 times pretty much. So a second Greedon restand because it's not limited to once per turn. So overall, this deck is better, like actually just better than it was before. It's just getting better cards. In terms of like, is this the best Dark States deck? I don't think so, but it's definitely a Dark States deck. But it actually just better. It's actually just better, and I think it can do some stuff. It can definitely do some stuff. You have to respect it more, right? Before you'd laugh at the deck because it deck out. Now it doesn't deck out. You have to be very, very wary about its multiple Vanguard restands. And this is, I think, Hongwei came first at one of his locos for this. So overall, I think it's probably the best performing Greedon list in the entire season. But hey, right? Not everyone posts on VG Top Decks. It's just how it is. And you can kind of just like, you can edit it any way you like. He doesn't run draws anymore because you actually I don't feel like you need to run draws anymore. You can just run fronts, right? You can just run fronts, and I think it just works better. So overall, those were the kind of the more upgraded lists. Very quick video, just so you know. You can just quickly access it and go, hey, this is what I want to play. All the links to the decks lists are below, so go check it out in the description. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you have chosen any different decks? Are there any other decks that you would have chosen, or like, you know, you want to hype up? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys all in the next time. All right, bye.